My husband stood up at our daughter's graduation dinner, champagne glass raised high, and announced to everyone at the table that he was leaving me for a younger woman. The restaurant went quiet. 28 years of marriage, and this is how Clifton Washington wanted to end it, in front of our daughter Janny, my mama, his parents, and 6 of our closest friends. "I've been unhappy for years," he said, his voice steady and cold. "I deserve to live my truth. Vernice, you've been a good wife, but Kendra makes me feel alive again. I'm starting fresh." I watched the blood drain from Janny's face. My baby girl had just walked across that stage 3 hours ago, diploma in hand, her whole future bright. And her father chose this moment to blow up our family. Everyone stared at me, waiting for tears, for screaming, for me to fall apart. My mama reached for my hand. Clifton's mother gasped, but I just reached into my purse, pulled out a manila envelope, and slid it across the white tablecloth. "What's this?" Clifton asked, his confidence flickering. "Open it." His hands shook as he pulled out the papers. I watched his face go from confusion to shock to pure terror. "These are divorce papers," he whispered. "Filed this morning at 9 a.m., I said calmly. "You've been served." Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Now let me tell you how I got to that moment, because honey, it's a story. 3 months earlier, I was doing laundry on a Tuesday morning. Clifton had left for his accounting firm early, said he had a breakfast meeting with a client. I was sorting his pants pockets before washing. He always left receipts and coins in there, when I found a hotel keycard from the Riverside Inn. We hadn't stayed at any hotel recently. Our last vacation was 2 years ago. I sat on the bedroom floor holding that little plastic card, and something in my spirit said this was bad. Real bad. But I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. I put that card in my jewelry box and went on with my day. That night at dinner, Clifton was on his phone more than usual, smiling at texts, stepping outside to take calls. When I asked who kept messaging him, he said it was work stuff, tax season stress. "Clifton, tax season ended a month ago," I said. "Well, amendments and extensions, Vernice, you know how it is." But I didn't know. Because for 28 years, my husband had never been a liar. Or maybe he had been, and I just never noticed. I started watching, paying attention. He was working late 3 nights a week now. Coming home smelling like perfume, he said, was from riding the elevator with clients, taking his phone to the bathroom, changing his passwords. I went to see my friend Loretta at her salon. Loretta had been doing my hair since we were both 25. She knew everybody's business because people talk when they're in the chair. "Loretta," I said while she was putting relaxer in my hair, "how would a person find out if their husband was cheating?" Her hands stopped moving. She looked at me in the mirror. "Oh, baby, who is it?" I didn't say, "Vernice, I've known you 30 years. Your face is saying what your mouth won't. What's Clifton doing?" I told her about the hotel card, the late nights, the phone behavior. "Girl, you need Tasha's cousin. He's a private investigator. Works for women going through divorces. I'll get you his number." 2 days later, I met Detective Harold Pierce at a coffee shop downtown. He was a short man with kind eyes and a gentle voice. "Mrs. Washington, I'll be honest with you. Most times when a wife comes to me with these suspicions, she's right. Are you prepared for what I might find?" "I need to know the truth," I said. "All right. I'll need photos of your husband, his work address, his car information, and access to credit card statements if you can get them." I gave him everything. Then I went home and cooked Clifton his favorite meal. Smothered pork chops, collard greens, mac and cheese, cornbread. I served him with a smile, kissed his cheek, acted like everything was fine, because if he was really doing what I thought he was doing, I needed to be smart, not emotional. Smart. Detective Pierce called me a week later. Mrs. Washington, can you meet me today? I met him at the same coffee shop. He handed me a folder. I'm sorry, he said. Inside were photos. Clifton and a young woman, maybe 30 years old, beautiful with long braids, coming out of the Riverside Inn. Clifton and the same woman at a restaurant, holding hands across the table. Clifton and this woman kissing in the parking garage of his office building. Her name is Kendra Hayes, Detective Pierce said. She works as a receptionist at the medical office 2 floors below your husband's firm. They've been seeing each other for approximately 14 months. 14 months. Over a year. I sat there looking at those photos, and something inside me went ice cold. Is there more? I asked. Yes. I tracked his credit card statements like you asked. There's something you need to know about your finances. He showed me printouts. Thousands of dollars going to an account I'd never seen before. Money transferred every month from our joint savings. Money I didn't know was missing because Clifton had always handled our finances. He's been moving money, Detective Pierce said. Small amounts at first, then larger. In the past year, he's moved over $250,000 to accounts in his name only. My hands started shaking. $250,000? There's more. He opened a credit card in both your names 6 months ago, maxed it out at $30,000. You're liable for half that debt. I felt sick. This man I'd loved since I was 26. This man I'd supported through building his business. This man I'd given my best years to. He was stealing from me while sleeping with another woman. What do I do? I whispered. Detective Pierce leaned forward. You do exactly what you've been doing. Act normal. Don't let him know you know anything. And you call the best divorce attorney in this city. I don't know any divorce attorneys. I do. Her name is Attorney Rochelle Banks. Tell her I sent you. That afternoon, I sat in Attorney Banks's office. She was a tall woman with silver locks and sharp eyes. She looked at Detective Pierce's folder and shook her head. Men think they're so slick, she said. Mrs. Washington, tell me, did you sign a prenuptial agreement? My stomach dropped. Yes, 28 years ago before we got married. Clifton said it was to protect the business he was starting. Do you have a copy? It's in our safe deposit box at the bank. Get it, today. Don't tell him you're going. I went to the bank that evening, told them I needed to access the safe deposit box. The banker asked if my husband wanted to be notified. No, I said. It's my box too. Inside, I found the prenup. It was yellowed with age, 28 years old, barely remembered. I took it straight back to Attorney Banks. She read it slowly, and then she started laughing. Actually laughing. Mrs. Washington, do you know what this says? That he keeps his business and I keep whatever I came into the marriage with, which wasn't much. Read page 7, section 4B. I read it, then read it again. In the event of marital infidelity proven by the party of the first part, that's him, the aggrieved party, that's you, retains primary ownership of the marital home, 70% of all joint investment accounts, and is entitled to ongoing spousal support based on the length of the marriage. He insisted on an infidelity clause? I couldn't believe it. Honey, he was protecting himself from you cheating. Men like this always think they're the prize. They never imagine they'll be the ones who can't keep their pants zipped. Attorney Banks smiled. This prenup is about to ruin your husband's life. With Detective Pierce's evidence and this document, we can file for divorce, and you'll walk away with the house, most of your investments, and he'll be paying you monthly support for at least 10 years. But he moved money. Doesn't matter. That money came from marital assets. We can prove it was moved with intent to hide it in anticipation of divorce. That's called dissipation of assets. The judge will make him return every penny, plus will argue he should get less than the 30% the prenup allows him because he tried to defraud you. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than pain. I felt power. What do we do now? Now, you let me handle everything. We file next week. We'll serve him at his office or at home, your choice. And Mrs. Washington, Don't let him see this coming. Men like Clifton rely on women being too emotional to think straight. Show him that you're smarter than he ever gave you credit for. I went home that night and cooked dinner. Clifton barely looked up from his phone. "How was your day?" I asked. "Fine. Busy." "Hours too?" "Mm-hmm." He didn't even hear me. Didn't even care enough to listen. Over the next 2 months, I prepared. I documented everything. I made copies of all our financial records. I moved my important papers, my birth certificate, Janny's baby pictures, my mama's jewelry, to my friend Loretta's house. I opened my own bank account and started depositing small amounts from my part-time bookkeeping job. And I watched my husband fall deeper in love with Kendra Hayes. He was sloppy now, careless. He'd come home late smelling like her perfume. He'd smile at his phone during dinner. One night I saw texts pop up. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow, baby," with heart emojis. He thought I was stupid. He thought I didn't notice. But I noticed everything. Jenny's graduation was coming up in 2 weeks. She was graduating with honors from State University with a degree in engineering. My baby was brilliant. She'd worked so hard. "Dad better not miss my graduation," she'd said during our last phone call. "I know he's been busy with work, but this is important." "He'll be there," I promised her. What I didn't say was that her father was busy with his mistress, not work. 1 week before graduation, Clifton sat me down at the kitchen table. "Vernice, we need to talk after Janny's graduation." "About what?" "About us. About our future." "Okay," I said calmly. He looked relieved. Probably thought I suspected nothing. Probably had his whole speech planned. I already knew what he was going to say. He was going to tell me he wanted a divorce. He was going to tell me about Kendra. He was going to think he had all the power. The morning of Janny's graduation, I put on my best dress, royal blue with gold buttons, fit me perfect, did my makeup nice, put on the diamond earrings Clifton had given me for our 20th anniversary, back when he still loved me, or pretended to. Then I drove to the courthouse and filed for divorce. Attorney Banks had everything ready. We filed, we got a court date, and she handed me the papers in an envelope. "Give him these tonight," she said. "After he's done with whatever stunt he's planning, let him think he's in control, then take it all away." At the graduation ceremony, Clifton sat next to me in the auditorium. We smiled for pictures with Janny. We hugged her. We acted like a happy family. "I made reservations at Belmont's for dinner," Clifton said. "To celebrate." Belmont's. The fancy restaurant downtown. He was planning something. At dinner, I watched him. He kept checking his watch, looking around. He'd invited both our parents, some of our close friends. This wasn't just a celebration for Janny. This was an audience. And that's when he stood up. That's when he made his announcement. That's when he tried to destroy me in front of everyone we knew. But I was ready. I'd been ready for months. After I slid him the divorce papers, after he saw what was inside, his face went pale. "You knew?" he gasped. "For 3 months," I said. "I know about Kendra. I know about the money you've been hiding. I know about the credit card debt. And now the court knows too." "Vernice, don't. You wanted to humiliate me? You wanted to break me in front of our daughter, in front of our families? Instead, you just showed everyone here exactly who you are." I stood up, picked up my purse, and looked at Janny. My baby was crying, but she nodded at me. "Mama, I'm coming with you," she said. We walked out of that restaurant together, leaving Clifton sitting there with those papers in his hands and his whole plan falling apart. When we got to the parking lot, I finally let myself feel it. The rage, the hurt, the betrayal, but also the victory. "Mama," Janny said, hugging me tight, "how long have you known?" "Long enough to protect us both, baby. Long enough to make sure we're going to be okay." What I didn't know yet was just how not okay Clifton was about to be. Because when Kendra found out he wasn't the rich man he'd pretended to be, When she learned he was about to lose almost everything, she disappeared faster than smoke. But that's not even the worst part of what happened to him. The next morning, my phone started ringing at 6 a.m. It was Clifton. I didn't answer. He called 17 times before noon, left voicemails begging me to talk to him, saying it was all a mistake, saying he'd been confused, saying he loved me. I deleted every single one without listening to the whole message. Janae was staying with me at the house. Clifton had gone to stay with his parents, or maybe with Kendra. I didn't know, and didn't care. What I did know was that he wasn't allowed back in our house without a police escort, per the emergency restraining order Attorney Banks had filed along with the divorce papers. "Mama, are you okay?" Janae asked over breakfast. Her eyes were red from crying half the night. "Baby, I'm better than okay. I'm free. But 28 years? 28 years I gave to a man who threw it away for a woman half his age. But you know what? I'm 54 years old and I'm still here. Still standing. And I've got plans." She looked at me with surprise. "Plans?" "Oh yes, big plans. But first, we've got to get through this divorce." That afternoon, I met with Attorney Banks again. She had news. "Clifton's attorney called this morning. Donald Chen, slick lawyer, thinks he's smarter than everyone else. He says his client wants to negotiate." "Negotiate what? The prenup is clear." "He's claiming the prenup is too old to be valid. Says circumstances have changed significantly in 28 years. Says you contributed nothing to his business success, so you don't deserve 70% of the assets." I felt my blood pressure rising. I contributed nothing? I kept his house clean, raised his child, supported him through every struggle. "Vernice." Attorney Banks held up her hand. "Breathe. This is just posturing. They have no case. But we need to be ready for a fight. They're going to try to prove you knew about his affair and didn't care, that you lived separate lives, that the marriage was already over. That's a lie. I know it is, and we're going to prove it." Detective Pierce found something else. She slid another folder across her desk. "Kendra Hayes isn't just his mistress. She's been helping him hide money." I opened the folder. Bank statements showing transfers to an account in Kendra's name. Thousands of dollars marked as consulting fees. "He was paying her?" I asked. "Or giving her money to hold? Either way, it's marital funds being diverted to a third party. This makes it worse for him." "Good," I said. And I meant it. The preliminary hearing was set for 2 weeks out. In the meantime, I had to keep living. Had to keep going to my part-time bookkeeping job at the church. Had to keep smiling when people asked me how I was doing. The church community rallied around me. Pastor Williams called me into his office the Sunday after graduation. "Sister Vernice, we heard what happened. How are you holding up?" I told him everything. About the affair, the money, the betrayal at Janae's dinner. He shook his head. "Brother Clifton has lost his way. But you, sister, you've shown remarkable strength. The church is here for you, whatever you need." "Thank you, Pastor. I appreciate that." "There's something else," he said. "You've been doing the books here for 3 years now. You're good with numbers, good with people. Have you ever thought about doing this professionally? Starting your own bookkeeping business?" I hadn't. I'd always just seen it as part-time work to keep busy after Jannie went to college. "I don't know if I could—" "Sister Vernice, you're one of the smartest women I know. You've been managing Clifton's household finances for decades, plus you handle all our church accounts. You could help other women, teach them about money management, financial independence. Think about it." I did think about it. All week I thought about it. Loretta brought it up too when I went to get my hair done. "Girl, you should start a business," she said while flat ironing my hair. "Financial consulting for women. Lord knows we need it. You know how many women sit in this chair and tell me they don't even know how much money is in their own bank accounts? Their husbands handle everything and then boom, divorce, and they're lost. You really think I could do it?" Vernice, you caught your husband stealing from you, hired a private detective, and planned a whole divorce strategy without him knowing. You're a businesswoman already. You just didn't know it. That planted a seed. A real seed. But first, I had to deal with Clifton. The preliminary hearing arrived. I wore a navy suit, professional, dignified. Clifton showed up in his best clothes too, looking tired and defeated. Kendra wasn't with him. We sat on opposite sides of the courtroom. The judge, a black woman named Judge Amara Hollis, looked over our case files. This is a preliminary hearing to address temporary support and asset protection, she said. Mr. Washington, I see you've filed a motion to dismiss the prenuptial agreement. On what grounds? Clifton's attorney stood up. Your Honor, the prenuptial agreement was signed 28 years ago under different circumstances. The business Mr. Washington started then has grown significantly due to his sole efforts. Mrs. Washington contributed nothing to that growth. Furthermore, the agreement's infidelity clause is punitive and excessive. Judge Hollis looked at Attorney Banks. Counsel? Attorney Banks stood. Your Honor, Mr. Washington is the one who insisted on the prenuptial agreement, including the infidelity clause. He wrote these terms to protect himself. Now that he's the one who committed adultery, he wants to pretend the agreement doesn't exist. Additionally, Mrs. Washington contributed significantly to his success by managing their home, raising their daughter, and providing the stable foundation that allowed him to focus on his business. Her contributions were invaluable, even if not financial. Furthermore, Attorney Banks continued, we have evidence that Mr. Washington has been systematically hiding marital assets for over a year, moving money to secret accounts in anticipation of divorce. We also have evidence he's been giving money to his mistress, Kendra Hayes. These are not the actions of a man acting in good faith. Judge Hollis looked at Clifton. Mr. Washington, is it true you've been moving marital funds to accounts your wife didn't know about? Clifton's lawyer jumped in. Your Honor, Mr. Washington was simply protecting his business assets. I asked Mr. Washington, Sir, answer the question. Clifton stood up slowly. Yes, Your Honor. But I was worried about the business. You were worried about getting caught cheating and losing your money, Judge Hollis said flatly. I've seen this pattern 100 times. Motion to dismiss the prenuptial agreement is denied. The agreement stands as written. Clifton looked like he'd been punched. As for temporary arrangements, Judge Hollis continued, Mr. Washington will continue to pay the mortgage on the marital home where Mrs. Washington is residing. He will also pay temporary spousal support of $4,000 per month until the divorce is finalized. Mrs. Washington retains access to all joint accounts. Mr. Washington, you are not to move, hide, or spend any significant marital assets without court approval. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Clifton mumbled. Good. Final divorce hearing is set for 8 weeks from today. Both parties should prepare accordingly. We left the courthouse. Attorney Banks was smiling. That went well, she said. Judge Hollis doesn't play games. She saw right through him. What happens now? I asked. Now we prepare for the final hearing. We prove every dollar he hid, every lie he told. And we make sure you get everything that prenup promises you. That night, Janae and I celebrated with Chinese takeout and a movie. She was heading back to her apartment in the city the next day to start her new job as a junior engineer. Mama, I'm proud of you, she said. The way you handled this, I want to be that strong someday. Baby, you already are. You're going to do amazing things. After she left the next morning, the house felt quiet, empty. For the first time in weeks, I let myself really feel the loneliness. 28 years of marriage, gone. But then I thought about Pastor William's words, about Loretta's encouragement, about the seed they'd planted. I opened my laptop and started researching. How to start a financial consulting business, what certifications I'd need, what services I could offer. The more I read, the more excited I got. I could do this. I could help women understand their finances, protect themselves, plan for their futures. I could turn my pain into purpose. 2 days later, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Vernice Washington? A woman's voice, young and shaky. Yes. Who's this? This is Kendra Hayes. I almost hung up. Almost. But something made me stay on the line. What do you want? I need to talk to you. In person. Please. It's important. Why would I want to talk to you? Because you need to know the truth. About Clifton. About everything. She sounded scared. Please. Just 30 minutes. I'll meet you anywhere. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop across town, far from anywhere we might see people we knew. Kendra looked different than in the pictures Detective Pierce had shown me. Thinner, tired, no makeup. She slid into the booth across from me, hands shaking. Thank you for meeting me, she said. Talk fast. I don't have much patience. She took a deep breath. Clifton lied to me. About everything. He told me he was divorced, told me his business was worth millions, told me you two hadn't been together in years. He said once his daughter graduated, he was going to marry me. And you believed him? I'm 29 years old and stupid, she said, tears starting. I believed a man who said he loved me, who bought me gifts and took me to nice restaurants and made me feel special. With my money, I said coldly. I know. I didn't know that then, but I know it now. After the graduation dinner, after he showed me the divorce papers you filed, everything fell apart. He told me the truth, that you were taking the house, most of the money, that he'd have to declare bankruptcy, that his business was failing. His business is failing? She nodded. Without the money he was taking from your accounts, he can't pay his employees or his office rent. He's been running the business on your money for months. His clients started leaving because he was distracted. Now he's losing everything. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I felt something else. Curiosity. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm scared. He's been calling me, threatening me. Says if I testify in court about the money he gave me, he'll say I seduced him, that I blackmailed him. He's trying to make me the villain. You are a villain. You slept with a married man. I know, you're right. But I didn't know he was married at first, and when I found out, I was already in too deep. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just trying to warn you. He's desperate. Desperate people do crazy things. She slid a flash drive across the table. These are copies of text messages between me and Clifton. Times he admitted the money was coming from your accounts. Times he talked about hiding assets. Times he said he was going to make sure you got nothing in the divorce. I picked up the flash drive. Why would you give me this? Because I'm 29 years old, and I just realized I destroyed my life for a man who was using me. Maybe if I help you, I can sleep at night. Maybe I can start to fix what I broke. She stood up. I'm sorry, Mrs. Washington, for everything. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I am. She walked out, leaving me sitting there with a flash drive full of evidence. I called Attorney Banks immediately. You need to see this, I said. We met at her office that evening. She plugged in the flash drive and read through the messages. Her eyes got wider with each one. Vernice, this is gold. He admitted in writing that he was hiding marital assets with intent to defraud you. He discussed strategies to make you look incompetent in court. He even talked about having Kendra lie on the stand. Can we use this? Absolutely. This changes everything. We're not just going to win, we're going to destroy his case completely. But that night, as I was getting ready for bed, something happened that made everything more complicated. My phone rang at 11 p.m. It was Clifton's mother, Eleanor. Vernice, you need to come to the hospital right now. What happened? It's Clifton. He's had a heart attack. I stood outside Clifton's hospital room at midnight, looking through the window at him lying in that bed with tubes and wires connected to his chest. His mother Eleanor sat beside him, dabbing her eyes with tissue. His father Horace stood by the window, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Part of me wanted to walk away. Let him deal with this alone, the way he was planning to leave me alone. But 28 years of being his wife didn't just disappear because he was a cheating liar. I walked in. Eleanor looked up, her face a mixture of relief and shame. "Vernice, thank you for coming. How is he?" "Stable. The doctor said it was a moderate heart attack, stress-induced. They're keeping him for observation, but he should recover fully with lifestyle changes and medication." I looked at Clifton. His eyes were closed, but I could tell he was awake, could tell he was listening. "I'm glad he's going to be okay," I said. And I meant it. I didn't want him dead. I just wanted him out of my life. "Vernice," Eleanor said quietly, "can we talk outside?" In the hallway, she took my hands. "I know what my son did to you. I know about the affair, the money, everything. I'm ashamed of him. I raised him better than this." "He made his choices, Eleanor." "I know. But please don't let this destroy him completely. He's still Jenny's father. He's still my son." "I'm not trying to destroy him. I'm trying to protect myself. There's a difference." She nodded, tears falling. "You're a better woman than I would be in your position." I went home that night and thought about it. Clifton in that hospital bed. The heart attack triggered by the stress of losing everything. Part of me felt a twinge of guilt. But then I remembered him standing in that restaurant, champagne glass raised, ready to humiliate me in front of everyone I loved. And the guilt disappeared. Attorney Banks called me the next morning. "I heard about Clifton's heart attack. How are you feeling?" "Conflicted." "That's normal. But Vernice, you can't let sympathy derail what we're doing. Men like this count on women being too kind, too forgiving. They use our empathy against us." "I know. I'm not backing down." "Good, because I have more news." I sent Kendra's flash drive to Clifton's attorney with a note saying this is what we'll be presenting in court. Donald Chen called me an hour ago. They want to settle. My heart jumped. Settle? They know they're going to lose. The prenup is solid. The evidence of hidden assets is overwhelming, and now we have his own text messages admitting to fraud. Chen says Clifton wants to negotiate a settlement that avoids a trial. What's he offering? Everything the prenup entitles you to, plus he'll return all the hidden money immediately, and he'll pay your legal fees. In exchange, you agree not to pursue charges for financial fraud, and you keep the details of the settlement confidential. I thought about it. A trial would mean months more of this. More stress, more lawyers, more seeing Clifton's face. "What do you think I should do?" "I think you should take it. You get everything you wanted, and you get to move on with your life. Sometimes the best revenge is just walking away with the win." We settled 3 weeks later. Clifton signed over the house, returned the $250,000 he'd hidden, and agreed to pay me $5,000 a month in spousal support for 12 years. I walked away with 70% of our investment accounts, just like the prenup said. He kept his failing business and 30% of the investments. The credit card debt he'd racked up? All his responsibility. I saw him one last time at the settlement signing. He looked terrible. Thin, gray, aged 10 years and 2 months. "Vernice," he said as we were leaving, "I'm sorry for everything." "I'm not," I said. "Because if you hadn't done this, I'd still be stuck in a marriage with a man who didn't value me. You set me free, Clifton. So thank you." I walked out of that lawyer's office and drove straight to Loretta's salon. "It's done," I told her. She screamed and hugged me. The whole salon celebrated. Women I barely knew were cheering for me, telling me their own stories of leaving bad men, starting over, finding themselves. That's when I knew what I had to do. I took the settlement money and invested in myself. I got my financial planning certification. I took business courses online. I worked with Pastor Williams to set up a community program at the church for financial literacy. And 6 months after my divorce was finalized, I opened Vernice Washington Financial Consulting, specializing in helping women understand and take control of their finances. My first client was a woman named Keisha, 42 years old, getting divorced after her husband emptied their accounts and moved to another state. "I don't know where to start," she said, sitting in my small office. "I don't even know how much money I should have. He handled everything." "That's okay," I told her. "We're going to figure this out together. And when we're done, you're going to know exactly where every dollar is, and nobody will ever be able to take advantage of you again." I helped her track down hidden accounts, helped her file for proper support, helped her create a budget and a savings plan. 6 months later, she came back to my office smiling. "I got a promotion at work. I opened my first retirement account. And I just put a down payment on a condo, all by myself." "That's amazing, Keisha. No, you're amazing. You saved my life." That became my mission. Saving lives by teaching women about money, about power, about independence. The business grew. Word spread through the church, then through Loretta's salon, then through the whole community. Women started coming to my workshops. I was teaching classes at the community center. I was writing articles for local publications about financial planning for women going through major life changes. Johnny was so proud. "Mama, you're like a whole different person. You're glowing." I'm happy, baby. Really happy. For the first time in years, I'm doing something that matters. Something that's mine. Meanwhile, I heard through mutual friends what happened to Clifton. His business did fail. Without the money he'd been siphoning from our accounts, he couldn't keep up with expenses. His employees quit, his clients left. He had to close the firm and declare bankruptcy. Kendra left him the day after our settlement was finalized. Apparently, she'd been hoping he'd come out of the divorce with enough money to support her lifestyle. When she found out he was broke, she disappeared, blocked his number, moved to another city. He ended up in a one-bedroom apartment in a rough part of town, working as a staff accountant for someone else's firm, making a fraction of what he used to earn. His parents were disappointed in him. His friends distanced themselves. Even Janae barely spoke to him after what he'd done. "I see him once a month for lunch," she told me. "But it's hard, Mama. Every time I look at him, I remember what he did to you." "Don't let what he did to me ruin your relationship with your father," I said. "He made mistakes, but he's still your dad. You can love him and still know what he did was wrong." 2 years after the divorce, I was invited to speak at a women's conference downtown. 500 women in the audience, all there to learn about financial empowerment. I stood on that stage and told my story. About the hotel keycard, about the private detective, about the prenup that saved my life, about finding strength I didn't know I had. "I was married for 28 years to a man who thought I was nothing without him," I said. "And when he left, I believed him for about 5 minutes. Then I realized something. I raised a brilliant daughter. I managed a household. I supported a man through building a business. I was smart, capable, and strong. I just hadn't been using those gifts for myself. So I started over at 54 years old. And let me tell you something. Starting over is terrifying, but it's also liberating, because this time I'm building a life that belongs to me. Not to a man, not to a marriage, to me." The applause was deafening. Women stood up. Some were crying. Afterwards, dozens of women came up to me with their stories, their struggles, their fears. And I gave them my card, scheduled consultations, promised to help them find their way. On my 57th birthday, Janae threw me a party at my house, the house I now owned outright, no mortgage, all mine. Loretta came with half the salon. Pastor Williams came with members of the church. My mama was there, proud as could be. "Look at my baby," she said, hugging me tight. Building an empire. It's not an empire, Mama. It's just a small business. It's an empire of hope. Every woman you help, that's another life changed. That's power, baby. Real power. That night, after everyone left, I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine, looking at my garden. I'd planted it myself last spring. Roses, hydrangeas, vegetables. Everything was blooming. My phone buzzed. A text from a new client. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me tomorrow. You don't know how much this means. I'm scared, but I'm ready to take control of my life." I smiled and texted back, "You're going to be just fine. I promise." And I meant it. Because I'd been where she was. Scared. Betrayed. Lost. But I'd found my way out. I'd found my power. I'd found my purpose. 3 years after Clifton announced he was leaving me at that graduation dinner, I'd built a business helping over 200 women take control of their finances. I'd written a book about financial planning for women in transition. I'd been featured in magazines and newspapers. I'd gone from being Clifton Washington's wife to being Vernice Washington, financial consultant, speaker, author, and woman who refused to let betrayal define her. I ran into Clifton one day at the grocery store. He looked tired, older, but healthier than he'd been right after the heart attack. "Vernice," he said awkwardly, "you look good." "I feel good." "I heard about your business. Congratulations. You deserve success." "Thank you." We stood there for a moment, two people who used to share everything, now strangers. "I really am sorry," he said quietly, "for all of it. You were a good wife, better than I deserved." "Yes, I was," I said simply. "But that's not who I am anymore. I'm not anyone's wife. I'm just Vernice, and that's enough." I walked away, and for the first time since I'd found that hotel keycard, I felt completely at peace. Because he hadn't destroyed me. He'd freed me. He'd given me the push I needed to become who I was always meant to be. And while he was living in a small apartment, working a job he hated, alone because Kendra had left him for someone with actual money, I was thriving. I was happy. I was whole. I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Sometimes the best revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's building such a beautiful life without them that their absence becomes the best thing that ever happened to you. Clifton tried to humiliate me at our daughter's graduation dinner. Instead, he gave me the greatest gift, freedom to discover who I really was. And who I really was turned out to be someone pretty amazing. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.